13, 2016 is now in session. Pam, roll call, please.
Mr. Craig?
Present.
Mrs. Belford?
Present.
Mrs. Henderson?
Here.
Mrs. Nisi? And Mr. Ziegler.
Here. Michelle Irwin, Assistant Superintendent of Government and Community Relations, will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, before we move any further, I'd like to offer my fellow board members the opportunity to recognize any staff, students, or community members at this time. Any board members? Mrs. Nisi.
To our left, I would like to recognize a large group of future educators that are here tonight from Eastern Florida State College. The classes of Kim Colucci and Marika Koch. If you please stand, these are our future educators here to visit us tonight. Thank you for joining us here.
Welcome. Hopefully it'll be an exciting meeting. Hopefully. Probably not, though. Mrs. Henderson.
Yes, I'd like to do a thank you to the Space Coast Realtor Association for having a Children in Need Gala on Friday night where there was hundreds of realtors there and they raised thousands of dollars for our students. And also, I think that we need to recognize Sally Shin for all the work that she does, pretty much with a minimal staff. So thank you, Sally, and thank you, Space Coast Realtors. And then on another note, if you don't know, the Viera High School Band has been invited to participate in the Sugar Bowl Parade and the Sugar Bowl Halftime. And they are doing a fundraiser on Saturday, this coming Saturday, rain or shine. Hopefully it shine. From 3 to 8 at the Viera Avenues. And they're going to have all kinds of activities, all kinds of prizes to give away, silent auctions. So come down and join the fun and help support our students try to get to the Sugar Bowl in January. Thank you.
Thank you.
No, I just wanted to say, Ms. Nisi, for our future educators, if things get a little rough up here tonight, I'll ask for a future superintendent to maybe come take my place up here.
Is there a future superintendent out there, too?
I'm sure there is.
Can you spot him a mile away?
Yeah, I
figured
can.
you could.
Yeah.
One of you is going to be a superintendent. All right, Mr. Craig.
He's actually here tonight. I don't know if you guys get the emails and things, but Space Coast Public Service Awards recognized Mr. Gary Schifrin with a Lifetime Achievement Award. Be presented later this month, and yeah, please. Former principal of Merritt Island High School, amongst other things, but I can tell you the impact that he continues to make at Merritt Island is well known and well received, and I thank you for it. So congratulations on well-deserved recognition.
All right, thank you. Ms. Belford.
All right, I have two that I would like to share this evening. First, Krista Miller, who became principal at Astronaut High School last year, so fairly new to being a principal at Astronaut, has been working very hard on raising school spirit and partnering with community and really getting community involved in the school. And she took it upon herself to reinvent, recreate, restart the homecoming parade for Astronaut High School. She went to Titusville City Council 2 weeks ago and asked them for funding assistance because the cost to shut down the road, the barricades, all of that is pretty pricey. City Council agreed to do half, which is $2,000, is half of the cost for the homecoming parade. And so she immediately left City Council and put word out to the community asking for, she needs to raise the other $2,000 by this Thursday so she can go back to council and say, see, the community supports it and we raised the money. And she is very, very close. Will most certainly be there by Thursday, raising that other $2,000. And the community is so excited about it. Everybody is just giddy about the idea. Not only will all of the students from Astronaut, those student organizations, be represented, but she's also invited all of the feeder schools to participate. So all the elementary schools and middle schools that feed into Astronaut will be participating. And they'll be shutting down Garden Street on October 6th at 6 p.m. for their parade, which is, you know, pretty big for them to shut down Garden Street. Usually they shut down downtown. But so kudos to her and her team for making this happen. Many thanks to the Titusville City Council for supporting our schools and understanding the importance of schools in our community and vice versa. And also many thanks to our community members who stepped up to help raise that additional $2,000 in 10 days. So pretty impressive there, and looking forward to it. If any of you would like to come down and watch the parade on the 6th, you are certainly welcome. And then there will be a bonfire at the school after the parade. So feel free to join us. Second one, some of you, I know I had talked to you about the 40 Days of Generosity campaign that took place in Titusville last year. And basically it was a community-wide effort for everyone to focus on doing acts of kindness for 40 days. Within that campaign, they raised $200,000 for the Splash Park at Sandpoint Park. They raised $42,000 for the Salvation Army Emergency Family Shelter. And there were thousands of acts of kindness that were done in Titusville and North Brevard in those 40 days. Pretty exciting to watch and pretty phenomenal. This year, we are getting ready to kick off our 40 Days of Generosity again. But the focus for the 40 Days of Generosity this year is on youth and education. And so Marcia Gadke with the Chamber has reached out to all of our schools in North Brevard and gotten in touch with the business partner coordinators at the schools and said, basically, give me your wish list. The goal is to match churches, corporations, families, groups of friends, whatever, with things that need to be done at the schools and in organizations that serve youth. So all around, I think we are going to be huge beneficiaries. Our students are going to be huge beneficiaries of the campaign. So they have their kickoff on Sunday, September 18th at 6 p.m. at Indian River City United Methodist Church. And then they will have their wrap-up party on Sunday, October 30th at Sandpoint Park from 2 to 6. And looking forward to a wonderful opportunity for our community to really get involved in our schools and help us meet those needs. Oh, and kudos to all of the volunteers that are putting this together, because it is no easy task to coordinate. And it's a very small handful of people that are working really hard to pull it all together. So, yes.
Okay. I would like to thank Glenn Outlaw and a group of gentlemen from Civilian Military Council who regularly support our middle school boys with a program called Tied Together. That's a program where we go in and we present to these boys what's probably, for most of them, their first tie that they've ever got. We teach them about respect, about shaking hands, about being presentable, and we show them how to tie a tie, and it's amazing how they just kind of glow after having that tie on and then wear it for the rest of the day. We just did that last week at Stone Middle School, and this Friday we'll be at Cocoa High. We're still looking for a few men to help out. John, you going to be there? Excellent. I know, Dr. Blackburn, you were interested in helping out, but the message said we need a few more good men, so hopefully we'll see you there. I'll hopefully be able to swing in on the way back from Winter Haven from the FSBA board retreat. And piggyback what Mrs. Henderson said about the Realtors and Children in Need. That's a great program where they raise money for our students in transition. I was there to enjoy the event also, and Mrs. Henderson, I noticed one of your campaign people there with her cell phone videotaping me dancing, because my wife said, you will go out there in the dance competition, you will win me the 6-foot roses, and obviously I wasn't good enough to win the roses, so I'm assuming I'm going to see that video pop up somewhere on Facebook, probably when I run for office again, right?
Mr. Ziegler, what are you saying? I'll get you a copy of it, though.
I'd like a copy of
Okay.
it, that would be great.
It's going nowhere. It was just for
It
fun.
doesn't really matter. We're all having fun. It's a great event. So, oh, there's a fundraiser for you.
Okay, I have a private fundraiser. No.
There you go.
Pictures of Mr. Ziegler
Hey,
dancing.
raise money for your campaign. Perfect. I knew I could help somehow. All right, well, that brings us to the adoption of the agenda. Dr. Blackburn.
Mr. Ziegler and members of the board, on this evening's agenda, we have 2 recognitions, 1 presentation, 12 consent items, 2 action items, and 4 information items. You also have the yellow supplemental agenda, which are changes made to the agenda since being released to the public. A presentation was added, item D7 on student achievement.
Okay, what are the wishes of the board?
Move to approve with the exception of B5.
Second.
Okay. Moved by Ms. Nisi, second by Mrs. Belford. In discussion for our audience, the presenter for that item is not feeling well, so we're going to move it to our next meeting on the 27th. Any other discussion? Not hearing any, let's vote. Okay. Dr. Blackburn. Oh, I'm sorry, that passes 5-0. Very important. Dr. Blackburn.
We have a check presentation and recognition of Lockheed Martin. Representing Lockheed Martin Mission Systems and Training Division this evening, we have with us Carl Kettner, Lockheed Martin Melbourne Site Manager, and Adam Linsenbart, I hope I said that right, Adam Linsenbart, Lockheed Martin Melbourne Program Manager and Community Relations Site Lead. They will present a check to Janice Kershaw, President of Brevard Schools Foundation, and Linda Filippini, Programs and Development Assistant.
Hey, thank you, Dr. Blackburn and members of the board. Lockheed Martin is a global security and aerospace company that employs approximately 125,000 people worldwide and is principally engaged in the research, design, development, manufacture, integration, and sustainment of advanced technology systems, products, and services. Through a more than 56,000-strong engineering and technical workforce, Lockheed Martin's approach to STEM outreach includes nonprofit and school partnerships that provide unique opportunities for engineers to build one-on-one relationships with students as role models and mentors. The Rotary and Mission Systems and Training Division recently awarded a grant of $20,000 to Brevard Schools Foundation to benefit students and teachers with Bright Ideas classroom grants and elementary and secondary science fairs. Lockheed Martin has made it a priority to support STEM education in Brevard Public Schools. To tell you a little bit more about the company and its investment in STEM education, I would like to introduce Carl Kettner.
Thank you, Janice. I didn't have anything much prepared, but I would like to thank you and the foundation for giving Lockheed Martin the opportunity to continue its philanthropy donations into STEM education. Lockheed Martin does give, employees donate about 200,000 hours per year in education-related activities. In addition to that, half of all Lockheed Martin philanthropy does go to STEM education. It's very important to Lockheed Martin, and again, I thank you for the opportunity to participate.
Good evening. Thank you, Carl and Adam. Dr. Blackburn and Mr. Ziegler, will you join us for a picture? On behalf of Brevard Schools Foundation, I extend our appreciation to Lockheed Martin Rotary and Mission Systems for helping support student achievement, empower teachers, and drive innovation on the Space Coast. Please accept this certificate as a small token of our appreciation. And once again, thank you very much.
Thank you again to Lockheed. These partnerships are invaluable, and everybody wins when we have partnerships like this. the school district recognizes the value, and because of that, we're also looking to our business partners for how we can help them. So if there's anything we can do to help you, let us know. Okay, Dr. Blackburn, will you please tell us about our presentation this evening?
Mr. Ziegler and members of the board, this evening, Dr. Carol Kent, Deputy Superintendent of Human Resources, along with several staff members that she will introduce, will present information to the board and viewing audience on our ACT results. Dr. Kent.
Good evening, Chairman Ziegler, board members, Superintendent Blackburn. It is my pleasure this evening to introduce to you Nada Francis. She is my Assistant Director of Accountability, Testing, and Evaluation, and Mr. John Carr, my Student Data Performance Analyst. They're otherwise known as my demigod and goddess gurus of data. They're going to be sharing information on student ACT results with you this evening. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Kent. Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board, Dr. Blackburn. This evening, I'd like to share with you a little information, the ACT results. But before I begin, I want to provide you with some background information. The ACT is a curriculum-based achievement test measuring what student has learned in school, and it is administered nationally. Brevard has been administering the ACT since 2009. The 11th grade ACT provides schools with a student's readiness for post-secondary education or college success. It also provides counselors with the tools to be able to, for the 12th grade, so that they know that the students are going to meet their college and career readiness goals. One of the things that I find most important, and I think is the reason that it has made us so successful, is because the ACT also provides a college admission for students at no charge to the students or the parents, and that is thank you to the board for making this possible. BPS absorbs the cost of the ACT. In the last part of that we use the ACT for, it is used to meet the FSA ELA graduation. It can also be used to meet the graduation requirement for those students that do not meet past the 10th grade ELA. Slide number 3 provides you a composite and a comparison. The composite score is the score when they add up the reading, the math, the science, and they provide us with a composite score. I thought that would give you a good picture, and I also wanted to provide you with information regarding the number of students tested. We tested 67 less students between 2015 and 2016. When you compared the state to the state, 2015 again to 2016, there was no change. When you compare the district, we saw a 0.3 of a point decline, whereas the nation saw a 0.2 of a point decline. The graph that you see at the bottom provides you a 2-year comparison for the district, the state, and the nation, and it is, again, graduating seniors. The reason that we decided to share with you not only the 11th grade, but all students, which is the graduating seniors, is because we thought that it encompassed and it gave you a much larger picture. Slide number 4 provides you with a mean score and ACT historical data. What I did in this slide, I started with 2016 because I thought we wanted to see exactly where we were, because although you can see that there's a slight decline, the decline is negligible. So I provided you the information for English, math, reading, science, and composite. The dark line that shows, that is like a brown, I think I should have chosen a different color that stands out a little bit more, but I do apologize for that. That is your benchmark. That is what determines what the ACT says that it's college ready. So that is the college readiness benchmark. The next slide, number 5, provides you with graduating seniors, the mean score by school for reading. So I thought that you would enjoy looking at a 2-year comparison so that you can see a side-by-side how are the schools doing. Again, when you look at the number that they have decreased, if any, it is negligible. I want to focus on the district comparison to Florida, to the state. When you compare the district to the state, we are 2/10 above the state. We are equal to the national average, where we're slightly below the ACT college benchmark, which is 22. When you look at the mathematics, it's the same format. I provided it for all the schools that offer the ACT, which is all of our high schools. The district is 0.5 of a point over the state. However, we are 0.6 of a point below the national average. The next slide is a little bit different because this talks about the college readiness benchmark and the percent of students that are meeting that college readiness benchmark. And again, I provided you 2 years' worth of data for all of the schools, in addition to the district, state, and national average. We are, Brevard is 1 point above Florida and 1 point below the national average. And I provided you the same information for the math. And again, it's all graduating seniors, and Brevard is 3 points above the state and 5 points below the national average. There are only 7 districts in the state of Florida that currently administer the ACT to all their 11th grade students. In 2017, there will be 11 districts. There are 4 districts coming on board, some of which are very small districts. Do you have any questions or comments?
Any board members? Sure, Mrs. Nisi.
I guess the one comment I want to make as you're going through these and saying how we compare, the one comment I want to just reinforce that we know sitting up here, but people looking at these might keep forgetting as you compare our scores to the state and as you compare our scores to the nation, you're comparing our entire senior class to the college-ready state.
Correct.
And to the college-ready nation. So you're not comparing apples to apples. So some people might say, well, you know, you didn't change or you're just on average with the state, but you're comparing our entire senior class to just the top rated in the state. Can you maybe elaborate a little bit on that and maybe emphasize that the numbers don't truly tell what I see as a good story here?
Absolutely. And I'm glad you brought that up. I was going to bring that up as my closing, so thank you for that. Mrs. Nisi is absolutely right. When you're looking at the number of students that Brevard tests in 11th grade, it is not just your students that are prepared to go to college. It has always been the idea that we're going to test all of our students so that we can give them that additional opportunity to say, hey, little Nada, you may have not thought about going to college, but look at your score. You're able to go to college, and now we've paid for your college entrance exam per se. So when you're looking at the data and you're doing comparisons to the actual data statewide, it's difficult because we do so much. We test all of our 11th grade students, and it encompasses all. I tried doing a comparison for the district to district. However, that is not something that is available to us. I've contacted ACT to see if that's something that we can either purchase additionally or just so that we have additional data. I'd like to see how the other districts that offer it to all 11th grade students, how do they compare to us? When you're comparing St. John's to Brevard, that's not a fair comparison. However, but that's one of those districts that's coming on board. There are some additional smaller districts. I can give you the list of districts that's coming on board that are very small. Hillsborough is coming on but not a small district by any stretch of the imagination, is coming on board this year for the first time. Indian River, which is our closest neighbor, and St. Lucie. Duval will also be coming on this year. So the 7 districts that are currently, it's Brevard, Citrus, Madison, Marion, Pinellas, Polk, and Wakulla.
So how do you think this new version of the ACT compared to the older versions? I know there was a lot of discussion out there when the new version of the ACT took effect in March compared to the previous versions. I know I work with students, as some of you are aware, in terms of preparing for the ACT. I haven't seen a whole lot of difference. What has been your take?
That we have not seen a whole lot of difference, and my colleagues across the state, those that do my job as the DAC across the state, they have said the same thing. They didn't see much of a difference. However, I have heard that when it comes to ACT, there are a lot more students doing better on the ACT, the new ACT, than they have done in the past, which is something Dr. Carr and I are going to look into doing an analysis so that we can bring that back to you. Thank you.
Any other board members? Mr. Craig?
Thank you for your presentation. On the second slide, or page 2, I think it's the 4th bullet, you made mention of that it is being used as a tool for the counselors to plan a 12th grade course of study that prepares them to meet college and career goals. Can you define career goals?
Well, it's just, they meet with the students and determine whether the students are going college readiness, or are they going to college, or are they going to go to the career track. So they meet with the students to come up with a plan which is best fit for each student.
But we're already at the end of junior year of high school, so our counselors, I would imagine, would be a little bit ahead of that curve at that point.
Yes.
1 year is not going to be the preparation for and the deciding factor whether you're going to college or not.
Yes, but this is mostly, and I should have prefaced it by saying this is mostly for those students that we did not realize that had the potential, or the students themselves didn't realize that they had the potential to go to college, and now the counselor can come to the student and say, pull you down and say, you may not have perfect grades, but look how well you did on the ACT. You could go to college, and these are the kinds of conversations that it opens the doors for those students.
Okay, and I appreciate you bringing that up. So do we have metrics on how many students that actually is? I mean, that's that's a theory, but certainly we must have some numbers that back up the time and expense that we're using for the ACT that would continue us down that path. Do we have those numbers?
I'm certain that we can pull those numbers. We have not pulled those numbers in probably 2 years. And I think it's time for us to look at those numbers. Dr. Carr and I, again, will sit down and look at those metrics so that we can bring it back to you.
Okay, and I would ask Dr. Blackburn, I think that's really critical to continue looking at those metrics to see if we're really, by telling everyone that they have to take it, if there's a metric that backs that up, then I can support that. But if we're just doing it because we want to, give everybody the opportunity to take the test and differentiate ourselves as a district, maybe it's time to look at whether or not year to year that's the best utilization of time and resources. And then I guess that further asks the question, of course, I am not well into the college prep years yet with my kids, but certainly there are multiple articles as we get, especially in the springtime, that more and more schools are stopping the use of standardized tests as entrance requirements, or even the ability to submit them. When do we start looking at whether or not this truly is something that is a benefit to our students to get them into college, or whether it is really just a benefit for the testing company?
Well, as of right now, there is not even a buzz as to that they're going to suspend testing in the state of Florida, or the college entrance is not going to be utilizing ACT or SAT. So as of right now, my answer would be, I think it's a good investment in the children's future, because it's important for them, those students that don't realize that they have the potential, for someone to say, hey, you know what, you really do have the potential. And not that one test can absolutely gauge that, but at least it gives the children of Brevard just a little bit more of a leg up. And I just want to add one more thing. When I said the FSA, ELA, the ACT also is used as a concordance score, a lot of our students, especially our lowest performing students, use that ACT as a concordance score. And I am one of those that is a proponent of that only because I've seen so many children be able to succeed and meet that high school graduation requirement that unfortunately is in statute. So using the ACT, that also gives them that free test in addition to everything else that we offer them.
Okay, thanks. I think if we can get metrics on that too, I think that's important to have those numbers as well. Thank you.
Okay.
Ms.
Thank you. Have a
Henderson?
great evening. Oh, I'm so sorry.
The other thing I wanted to point out, Mr. Craig, was part of the reason that we continued with this and we were doing this is because we have gone from FCAT to Next Generation Sunshine State Standards to FCAT to FSA. So there was a lot of changing in our state assessments, and what this gave our district was some consistency so that we could, because although you could take those tests because they're changing all the time, our teachers can't keep up, our kids can't keep up with all the changes and the changing standards. So we use this as something to
Baseline.
as a baseline to see where we are. But I do have another question for you. And if the test is supposed to be easier, then why did our scores go down?
No, it's the
Okay.
SAT that I had said that my colleagues across the state are saying that the
SAT,
students are
okay.
performing better. But Dr. Carr and I are going to look into that data.
And I was going to make that same comment, so that's a good point about baseline. As far as comparing, I'm glad you had the foresight to think about comparing the 7 counties where it was all-inclusive, because that gives you a better measurement of
Yes.
how we're doing. I guess conversely, if that is not available, can you find out the percentage of students in the state that have taken the test? And then we take that percentage of 25%, Tucker, we take our top 25, and then we compare. It might be a similar type of
Absolutely.
comparison, so we're comparing apples to apples. That might be interesting.
I could also call some of my colleagues across the state and see if they're willing to share some of that information.
Okay.
So typically, that we share.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for that presentation.
Thank you. Have a great evening.
Okay, we're now at public comments. Do we have our podium? If Louis, tell me to bring our podium up. We're now at public comments. The maximum allotted time for each speaker is 3 minutes. Clarification of information presented and answers to questions specific to district business and educational matters will be posted on the school board's website under a section called For the Record. Please be reminded that profane, abusive, or slanderous speech is not permitted. I'll request that you speak into the microphone, state your name, and we're going to, microphone, good thinking. We have only 3 speakers tonight. Our first one will be Dan Bennett, followed by Anthony Colucci, followed by Dave Netterstrom. Mr. Bennett, how close would you like the podium to the board? Well, you know, yeah, you know, our children accept change very readily in the schools. I think we need to set
Actually,
an
that's my
example and
topic.
accept
Actually,
change
it's a little
also.
far away. Let me push it up some.
There you go. Whatever makes you comfortable, sir.
Not that close.
Go
Good
ahead,
evening.
you
Good
may
evening, Dr.
begin.
Blackburn. Oh, push your button, Andy. Good evening. You ready? Good evening. I don't have anything to say, but that never stopped me from coming up here. Good evening, Dr. Blackburn. Good evening, members of the board. It was 24 or 25 years ago. We all remember where we were 24, 25 years ago. Of course, you all do. I'm thinking over my shoulder, 24, 25 years ago, that I first attended a board meeting as part of a college class. And I was trying to decide, is this going to be my career or not? And I made the decision, yes, it would be. And it's a decision I've never regretted. And I hope those folks over my shoulder that I can't turn to because you'll tell me to address you. But I hope that those folks over my shoulder will never regret that decision either. I hope they do end up in education. But here's what somebody said at that board meeting. I don't know what it, in Alachua County, the school board building's kind of in a rougher part of it. It might have been a homeless person stumbled in. But somebody got up there and addressed the crowd and said, elections are coming up. And everybody make sure you vote. Because remember, everything to do with this profession is decided by people who have been voted into office. And I'm looking at some of them right now. The people voted into office hire the person in charge of running the schools, and then you all have to deal with laws by more people that are voted on into office. And whatever you don't like about this profession, or whatever you do like about this profession, whatever goes right, whatever goes wrong, it was all done by somebody that was voted into office. And so I hope the people behind my shoulder that you won't let me look at, but I hope that they are listening to this message, and I hope that come November 8th, I'm not going to tell you who to vote for or how to vote, but make sure you vote. And I'll remind you that even if you go to show up to vote, you just leave the ballot blank and you slide it through the ballot box and let them count a blank ballot, that still sends a message. If you're not satisfied with who's on the ballot, of course, we won't leave it blank. We're going to vote for somebody that day. What's important is that in Brevard County, the people in Tallahassee notice that Brevard County has high turnout, because they won't know who you voted for, but they'll know that you did vote, and they'll know that we're watching. And whoever makes it up there to Washington, they need to notice that Florida has a high turnout, and specifically Brevard County has a high turnout. When they're looking at the space program, when they're looking at cleaning up lagoons, when they're looking at education policy, they need to see that Brevard County has super high turnout because we care about our local issues. When I was at that board meeting, I remember getting chastised because it said people my age, and I was a different age back then, but they said people my age are notorious for having low turnout. And now I think the trend is actually getting better. I think people of college age are actually voting in higher percents than they used to. So keep up the good work back there and keep voting high, because we need a high turnout. By the way, I'm just realizing now, 24 years ago, there was a President Clinton. That's how long ago it was. But let's make sure that everybody notices, everyone elected knows that Brevard County has a high turnout, because boy, this profession can go one way or another based on those those elected officials up in Tallahassee. Thank you.
Thank you. He didn't announce his title. That's okay. That's okay. I'm impressed that he remembered who was president 25 years ago. I can't even remember what I had for lunch yesterday. All right, that leaves Mr. Colucci. Step on up. A pancake.
My name is Anthony Colucci. I'm the Vice President of the Brevard Federation of Teachers. A couple of years ago, I reconnected with an old friend on Facebook. I was shocked to see that he had become a police officer, and I made some kind of snarky comment about, hey, I can't believe they let you become a police officer. And his response was, hey, I can't believe they let you become a teacher. By now, most of you know that I was a bit of a discipline problem as a child. I spent lots of time in detention, in school suspension cells, suspended, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I had to be removed from my classes because I was interfering with the learning process for other students. That's a pretty straightforward, common sense approach. I can't imagine how many more gray hairs I would have given my teachers and the harm I would have done to my classmates' education if I was not removed. Today, I'm completely dumbfounded that in this district, many principals refuse to provide the support teachers need with disruptive and dangerous students. Now listen, I understand there are serious concerns with the unfair treatment of some groups of students that needs to be corrected. However, not dealing with discipline issues at all cannot be the answer. When it comes to a teacher who is refused help by a principal who insinuates a child's behavior is a teacher's fault, or when the answer to a dangerous and disruptive child is for the teacher to keep tally marks with hopes that someday there'll be enough tally marks for that principal to act, I will remind you that that principal and this board are setting that teacher up for legal trouble if that student harms him or herself or another student. Additionally, you're putting that teacher in harm's way. Just last year, I witnessed a teacher's repeated pleas for help with an out-of-control student be denied. That teacher ended up being seriously injured by that student. Dr. Blackburn, I know you're developing a plan to work on this, but at some point you need to move from strategy to action, and that time is now. You owe it to the students and teachers in this district to clarify procedures for disruptive and dangerous students. Thank you.
Thank you. Dave Netterstrom.
Good evening, board members. Dr. Blackburn, thank you very much for all that you do. My name is Dave Nedestrom. I'm the former mayor of Cocoa Beach. I'm also a candidate for clerk of court, but most importantly, I'm a graduate of Brevard Public Schools. I was at Cocoa Beach High School when Mr. Schifrin back there was there, so I thank him very much for influencing me. When I was mayor of Cocoa Beach, I really enjoyed working with all of you to find solutions and good things for the students and our communities. One of the fun things that we used to do, and still do to this day, I think, is the Roosevelt children come down to City Hall and they have a field trip. They get to see all of about how City Hall works, and they'd drag me in and I'd be a speaker and they'd ask me all kinds of hard questions, and it was just a lot of fun. When I'm clerk of court, I promise to continue that kind of relationship, working with you guys for the benefit of our children. Perhaps there's some ideas that we could do, field trips to the courtrooms, maybe some senior projects, or perhaps even some intern programs or something like that at the clerk of court. So again, thank you very much for all that you do, and I look forward to working with you guys in the very near future.
Thank you. The board wishes to thank this evening's speakers. Your willingness to speak to the board is appreciated. That moves us right along into the consent agenda. Dr. Blackburn.
There are 12 agenda items under this category, 2 with prior information.
Does any board member wish to pull any of the consent items? No. Then I'll entertain a motion to accept consent.
So moved.
So moved.
Got a first by Mrs. Nisi, second by Mr. Craig. Any discussion? Not hearing any, please vote. Passes 5-0. And for our future educators, the consent agenda is a group of items that we vote on as a group. We've been briefed on them all. Some of them may have come before us as information before, and it's just easier to vote on them all at once as opposed to going through one at a time. It speeds things up, which it's going to do this meeting, speed it up pretty quick. That moves us to the, I don't think we need a break. So that moves us to the action agenda. Dr. Blackburn.
Mr. Ziegler and members of the board, there are 2 action items. First is item G21 on purchasing solicitations.
What are the wishes of the board?
To approve.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Henderson, second by Mrs. Belford. Any discussion on G21? Not hearing any, please vote. Passes 5-0. Dr. Blackburn.
Next is item G22 on department school initiated agreements.
What are the wishes of the board?
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Nisi, second by Mrs. Henderson. Any discussion? Please vote. Passes 5-0. All right, we'll move on to the information agenda, which includes items for board review. And we brought back for action at a subsequent meeting. No action will be taken on these items tonight. Dr. Blackburn.
There are 4 items under the information category.
Does any member wish to discuss anything on information tonight? Go ahead, Mrs. Henderson.
I'd like to talk about the impact fee resolution. Based on the information that we had today, where we're not going to have any more money, $3 billion less in the state budget over the next 3 years. And also that I was asked to ask this question at one of the meetings we were at the other day. Dr. Blackburn, you had a reception for the realtors, and they asked the question, why are we only doing 50% of what the study asked for? Would we be better off doing 60% or 70%? I know we've talked about it, but I think that the public needs to know why we're doing it that way.
Dr. Blackburn.
my lifeline, Mr. Theodore. I saw he was on his way up here to address the question.
You only get one of those per meeting, you know.
Next, I'm going to call on the folks from Eastern Florida, so pay attention over there.
That's the Ask the Audience Lifeline, right?
Good evening. When we started the process of requesting that the County Commission consider changing the impact fee ordinance in 2015, we requested two things. They had completed a study update of the impact fees, all of their impact fees actually, but for the school impact fee, the updated study by their consultant recommended that we have one benefit district instead of the four to give us a little more flexibility. And they set a new fee schedule based on the gap that the impact fees would fill to address the impacts of students from new homes. We went to the impact fee advisory committees. Each of the impact fee benefit district advisory committees. Each impact fee benefit district has an advisory committee comprising the representatives of the local governments within that benefit district. They recommended that we should limit it. We should not go to less than 2 benefit districts. That would give us more flexibility, not the entire county, but north and south. And they actually recommended that we set the impact fees a little higher than the 50%. I don't believe that the recommendation would be to set it at the amounts recommended by the consultant, because they basically doubled the impact fees for single-family homes, less so for multifamily and mobile homes. The County Commission requested that their staff send the recommendations to the Home Builders Association group and their P&Z, both of whom recommended approval of the 2 benefit districts and recommended that there be no change to the impact fee schedule. At their workshop, following those 2 meetings, at their workshop on July 15th of last year, Mrs. Nisi and I attended, and I believe at that point what we were saying is, if you're not going to change the impact fee amounts, at least put it to something that is a percentage of your new impact fee study, which then has a rational basis, rather than just leaving it at a 10-year-old impact fee schedule. So I believe that at that time the intent was to set the fees at a amount that was effectively the same amount as they had been. That does not coincide with the consultant's study. It is simply a recommendation that addresses the recommendation. It was a recommendation that addressed the recommendations of the 2 recommending groups, the P&Z. Does that make sense? The P&Z and the home builders. It is less than the impact fee benefit district advisory committees recommended.
So you said on a rational, but what is the rational basis then? We've gone round and around this, but you just said it is based on a rational, or it is the rational basis. So what is it?
Perhaps rational was the wrong word. It is a, it addresses as a percentage of the recommended amount rather than some fee that is simply made up or is based on a 10-year-old study. A rational amount would be the 100% recommended by the impact fee advisor, impact fee consultants.
So you said the advisory groups recommended no change,
That's correct.
and this is about as close to no change as you could get?
Yes, sir.
Which is, I think, what you said a long time ago.
It's within a few dollars. It depends on how many single-family homes as a percentage of the multifamily and mobile homes. But
Right,
effectively, based on historical amounts, it would amount to a virtually no change.
And what's interesting is it's a slight change to single-family, but it's a significant reduction to lower-income housing.
It's about a 14% or $600 increase to the single-family homes. It's about a 35% or so decrease to the multifamily and about a 50% decrease to the mobile homes. And you'll have to excuse me, I don't have those numbers in front of me, but it's approximately. Am I close, Mrs. Belford?
Pretty close. Mobile home is down 52.9%, multifamily down 30.5%, and single family up 14.7%.
So pretty close.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Craig?
So at that Realtor meeting last week, and I appreciate you doing that, was any of the suggestions, have we, the pushback was, and pretty strongly was, there was no correlation, but then again, there's no correlation to this either. So by throwing that argument out, have you done the background on those other suggestions? There was a suggestion for percentages, square footage, things that have been done in other districts.
Correct. I've contacted the company that did the study. I have not received an answer on the question that I asked was, is there any way to correlate the price of a home and set the impact fees as a percentage of the price of a home, instead of the basis that they typically calculate them on? I've not received an answer back. It'll be very difficult to do that because I have not received an answer, but I'm just going to say that it'll be very difficult to correlate an impact fee based on the price of a home, because $1 million three-bedroom home generates the same impact as a $150,000 three-bedroom home.
Okay, we'll see what they say.
All right, any other items under information to be discussed? Okay, that brings us to board member reports. Any board members have a report? Mrs. Henderson?
I was in discussion last week, talking to somebody about some of our transportation costs and stuff like that. And it was brought to my attention that apparently, and I don't know this to be true, so I would like you, Dr. Blackburn, to check this out, that there have been changes to Title I that would allow districts to use Title I money for the McKinney-Vento Act, if you're driving, so that you could free up other monies and use Title I monies. I don't know what that impact would look like, but I think that we need to at least take a look at it and try to understand how that would work for our district, if that would work for our district, any amount of money that it could save us on transportation, what we would be removing from our Title I schools if we used the money for that and that sort of thing. But I think I think that needs to be looked at.
Okay, any other board member? Mr. Craig?
I know we've been pretty much daily provided an email that outlines what schools that day are affected by either no air conditioning, no power, both. I just ask that from Dr. Blackburn, I think we need to be proactive at this point and figure out what it is we are doing as a district to address it. This isn't a one-off anymore. This is constant. This is daily. Sometimes at the same schools, sometimes not. Sometimes it's schools with new systems, sometimes it's schools with old systems. We don't need to get in the weeds of which schools they are, but we need to know what we're doing as a district to either hold the companies accountable for what it is that they are or are not providing, and whether that is the company that makes the controls or the company that delivers the electricity or companies in between. We are the largest, consumer of power in this county, and we therefore hold a pretty good piece of clout that we expect a level of service. And if we're not getting it, we need to know this elected body needs to know what we need to do to go forward to make sure that that happens, because we cannot continue to have this daily occurrence. And, teachers contact us, parents contact us, students contact us, not to mention the emails that we get, describing the situation from this building. So if we can make sure that that happens so that we can understand better what we can do to move forward and make those things happen, because we need to address it.
Okay. Any other board member? I just want to mention something I've mentioned before to the board, make sure the board's okay with this. I had spoken previously about the classroom I visited that had the Pledge of Allegiance in the classroom, and I've mentioned that to a lot of different groups, and suggested it might be interesting to, if we can put the pledge in every classroom, since apparently not all students really know it. However, I didn't, and I mentioned, and Mr. Craig very astutely said, yeah, as long as it doesn't cost us as much as a handwriting chart, and I absolutely agree with that. And it probably won't cost very much. We have staff's going to figure that out shortly, what it's going to cost. But then I said, I don't think we should pay for it all. I think that it should be a community-wide effort to do that in our schools. I've gotten great feedback from our community, different organizations that would love to jump in and participate. So unless the board has any objection to putting the Pledge of Allegiance in every classroom, I'd like to move forward on setting up a fund. I've talked to the Brevard Schools Foundation. Of course, we're probably going to raise more money than we know what to do with for just putting a poster up with the pledge. I'm proposing it be something like along the BPS Patriot Fund. We use the money for flags. We use it for Veterans Day. We use it for ROTC. Anything patriotic, military, or which we support 110%. Unless there's any objections, I'm going to work on moving that forward.
I think it's a great idea, but who's going to decide that?
Well, we can put a group together, however you want to do it, we'll get the ball rolling.
Okay,
But,
yeah, just
maybe us, maybe a committee, it doesn't really matter, I
agree. I just don't, I don't want it to be.
You, Mr. Craig, can
Yeah,
make
no,
that
I don't want to
decision.
be that
I trust you
person, no.
implicitly. Okay, that's all I have. Dr. Blackburn, words of wisdom.
No, just an update, no words of wisdom,
Oh,
I'm sorry. But thank you to the public for showing up on September 17th to our first Strategy Matters presentation out in the community that was held at Vieira High School. Tomorrow night, we will be at Astronaut High School on the 14th. On the 15th, the following night, we'll be at Merritt Island High School. On September 28th, we will be at Bayside High, and on September 29th, we will be at Satellite High School. More information is located on our website, on our Facebook page, on our Twitter page, and we've sent the communications out. Thank you to Florida Today for producing an article and getting the word out as well. All presentations will begin at 6 p.m. Myself, several board members, and senior cabinet members will be there to answer questions and address issues. Several department/division highlights I would like to discuss briefly. First, from secondary leading and learning, 3 middle school literacy coaches were mentioned or nominated to participate in the 2016-2017 Literacy Coaching Academy. This is a new initiative by Just Read Florida aimed at increasing the expertise of middle school literacy coaches in the state. The nominations included Lisa Highham of Madison Middle, Tamara Hoffman of Cocoa High, and Dina Stanley of Kennedy Middle and Vieira High School. I'm happy to announce that all 3 of our nominations were accepted, and they will be participating in the Academy. From Equity, Innovation, and Choice, through the education location option and program opportunity application fees, we have over $230,000 that was collected for school year 15-16. A STEAM coalition is being developed to match school needs with business expertise grants. In government relations, year-to-date total in advertising dollars that have been collected is about $229,000 as well. From financial services, accounting services and risk management successfully worked with the district's workers' compensation actuary to reduce the claims liability as of June 30, 2016 by $1.6 million over the first calculation. So thank you to that staff. And budget, cost accounting, and FTE successfully worked with student services and the command at Patrick Air Force Base to obtain their support in having military families complete the Impact Aid survey form. This should assist us in increasing our funding. And my second to last update, a little lengthy, but when you hear the topic, hopefully you'll appreciate the length. So from our Human Resources Division, we would like to announce an important upgrade to our applicant tracking system. The security background screening has been upgraded to include criminal history and work performance questionnaires. BPS has gone from asking 4 questions on criminal history responses to 23 questions that pertain to sealed or expunged records, criminal offense records and pending criminal offense records, and 8 questions in regard to work performance history. This section also includes an affirmation statement that the criminal background information submitted is true or accurate, and separate affirmation statement that all performance background information is also accurate. Finally, embedded in these questionnaires are 2 links that lead the candidate to State Statute 1012.315, disqualification from employment, and a hiring statement for work performance that outlines the guidelines BPS uses to determine eligibility for hire based on past work performance. HR and our security department have established a system for reviewing this information to ensure accuracy of the information provided by all candidates and steps to take if the information provided is false. So again, I know that was a little lengthy, but I wanted to read that verbatim. And last but not least, even though October is set aside for Breast Cancer Awareness Month, it isn't too early for real men to wear pink. And so I'm wearing pink. I've unilaterally decided to extend October several weeks into September in support of Breast Cancer Awareness Month. I unfortunately have had that vicious disease touch my life personally via taking my dad away from me prematurely, and so very sensitive to cancer research. I'm working with the American Cancer Society here in Brevard as one of the men dedicated to being real men to wear pink, and we're trying to raise lots and lots of money for the effort. So I know we all have mothers, grandmothers, wives, sisters, aunts, and people that we care deeply about, and we want to support and give to this initiative, but also keep in mind that our female loved ones are not the only ones at risk for breast cancer. Men are at risk for breast cancer as well. So we're all in it, and I'm dedicated to being a real man who wears pink. And real men especially wear pink in September.
Mr. Craig, did it feel like he was looking at us when he said that? Yeah, I think he was throwing down the gauntlet there.
So if you haven't already done this, visit my Facebook page, my Twitter page, click on the link, and go donate to the effort.
Okay. All right, thank you. Mrs. Belford, you had a follow-up?
I do, just in response to Dr. Blackburn's update, 2 things that I wanted to mention. Part of the update was the change or the completion of Equity and Innovation's strategic plan objective of looking at the dates for application. So we had previously discussed the need to ensure that we had some direction or some information to provide our families regarding choice busing prior to the application deadlines for choice. So my request would be that we take a look at that and see if we need to adjust our deadlines on that particular issue. I think, looking at it, that we probably do need to make some adjustment on that, but I'll leave that up to you and the rest of the team to look into. And then just kind of an aside on our workers' compensation risk discussion in the update, I think part of that probably feeds into what Mr. Colucci was speaking about tonight with regard to some of the types of things that are happening, so that keep Mr. Colucci's comments in mind as we look at that risk decrease, please.
Okay. Anybody else? Anything for the good of the meeting? All right. Meeting's adjourned.